Manna TV broadcast. My name is Apostle Dr. Rosanna Roman, and I'll be your host today. So we're going to talk about disaster comes before destiny, or disaster comes before your destination. That's the way God moves. That's the way God designed it, that there is trouble before there is triumph, that there is travesty before there's victory. This is God's path. This is God's way. So we all have times in life when things don't work out the way we thought they were going to work out. When life isn't turning out the way we hoped it would, then we become disappointed. You know, when people have left your lives that you weren't counting on them leaving, when people get removed from our lives, when God has allowed us to be removed from a position that we've held for years and years. So when we get removed from a position, that shatters us. We say, what is going on, Lord? I don't understand. We didn't get the promotion that we thought we would get, that we know we deserved, but it didn't go to us. When people close to us, they betray us. This really hurts because those that are close to the heart can break the heart. So that really, really hurts when we get betrayed, when we're going through disasters. Friends and family, maybe they've slandered your reputation, your good reputation, a reputation that you worked on for years and years, and yet people are talking and people are slandering. That hurts. Maybe we failed a test that we thought for sure, I'm going to pass my boards and I'm going to be a lawyer, I'm going to be a doctor, I'm going to be a nurse, and we end up failing that test. Or maybe a door that we prayed for years and years. It opened, but then shortly after that, it closed. And we're thinking, my gosh, we're going from disaster to disaster, Lord. What is going on? But understand that your disasters will lead to a destiny. Your disasters will lead to a destination. We think we must have missed it when things don't work out. But God uses the pain to move us into purpose. God allows us to go through trouble to get to a triumph. God's hand is taking us from travesty into victory. That's why we need to know how the Lord moves and how he works. We don't get it. It doesn't make sense. It wasn't right, Rosanna. They dismissed me and I shouldn't have been dismissed. It wasn't right, Rosanna. They lied about me. They're always lying about me. It's wrong. They accused me and I didn't even do anything. It was wrong. They stole my ideas, the ideas that I worked on for a long time, and they took it and they claimed it. That's wrong. When they hated me for no reason, I gave them no reason to hate me, and yet they're hating on me. I know that it doesn't feel good, that it doesn't feel right, that it hurts, that it's unfair, that yes, it is mistreatment. But the trouble is necessary for us to go and get to our triumphs. We might not like the way God does things, but he uses the trouble. The trouble comes first, the triumph comes next. The disaster comes first, the destiny comes next. Your troubles are leading you into a triumph. It's part of God's plan to move you from trouble into triumph. Okay, you couldn't become the person that God has ordained you to be without trouble. I know we don't like hearing that, but you know what? That's the way God moves. The disasters are necessary to get you to your destination. It is part of God's plan. So if you don't understand the way God moves, you will be fighting every time things don't work out the way you thought it should work out. Yes, you're going to be upset because they left you out. Yes, you're going to be frustrated because once again, they lied on you. You're going to be discouraged because the plans fell through and you thought they were sure. It was a sure thing, but yet your plans fell through. You're going to be angry when it seems like people are getting away with murder. and nobody's holding them accountable. You're going to be bitter if your relationships went sour, and then resentment sets in. We must identify the hand of God when he's moving in our lives so that we're not upset, so that we're not frustrated, or we don't remain there a long time, so that we're not angry and we don't become bitter and resentful. Nothing worse than that. You've got to understand the way God moves in order for you to stay in peace. So what you thought was a setback was God redirecting your steps. He's ordering your steps. Your life is in his hands. Your life is in the palm of his hands. Nothing touches your life except God allows it. And when he allows it, he's responsible to get you through it. I don't understand. You have to say, but I trust you anyway. That little phrase right there has gotten me through a lot of disasters. I don't get it, Lord, but I trust you anyway. I don't even like it, Lord, but I trust you anyway. I don't understand what's going on, but I do trust you. Now, Jesus, let's look at Jesus's life. He was on the Mount of Olives. He was about to be arrested. He was about to be crucified. Judas kissed him on the cheek. The soldiers apprehended Jesus. Okay, then what's next? God is using, we're seeing it right now. God is using devastation to move Jesus into destiny. Does he like it? Of course not. Of course not. Did he understand it? Yes, he did, because he was in prayer and he learned to identify the hand of God and the footprints of God. So it looked very wrong, right? I mean, this looked all wrong, but God is about to make it right here. And Peter said, this isn't happening under my watch. Oh no. So what does he do? He pulls out his sword and he cuts off the ear of the soldier. It was wrong. It was wrong that Jesus was falsely accused. Oh yes, it was wrong that people mocked him. It was wrong that his beard was cut and a crown of thorns was placed on his head. Oh yes, it was definitely wrong when people spit on him, when they whipped him 39 times minus one. It was wrong when Jesus was betrayed and all of his disciples left him. It was wrong when he was verbally abused and disrespected. An innocent man was being crucified. But devastation comes before destiny. Devastation comes before a destination. Jesus said, put down your sword. All this trouble is leading me to my destiny. My God, can we say that? All our troubles, all my troubles are leading to my destiny. All these troubles are leading to a triumph. The disasters are leading to our destiny. Boy, take that in. Take that in and think about it. All the troubles are leading to a triumph. All the disasters are leading to my destiny. The wrong is necessary to get to the right outcome. That's a mouthful. And boy, when you really chew on that and you meditate on that, that will empower you. That will keep you at rest. That will keep you in the peace of God. For without the betrayers, without the abuse, without the mistreatment, without the rejection in our life, or in Jesus's life, Jesus would have never went to the cross. He would not have offered us salvation if these things would not have happened. It wasn't the enemy either that was causing all of his disasters. It wasn't the enemy. It was the hand of God. My gosh, it was the hand of God. Now, I know in your life, you're going to recognize that too. One day, you're going to say, but wait a minute, I prayed and prayed and prayed, and it went sour, and it went south. Well, there's the hand of God. You're going to realize that, boy, this is not the enemy. This is God himself. This is my Father. Why is he doing this? Because he's working out his plan. All things work together for good, including the things you don't like, including the things you hate, including the things that break your heart. All things are working together for your good. It was a hand of God. God uses the disasters. There will be delays in your life. There will be denials and disappointments and discouragements all through your life. Oh, like Peter, and you will be tempted to fight. You will be tempted to resist. You will be tempted to say, this isn't fair, and you're going to, go against the plan of God unbeknownst to you because you think that it's time to fight. But it's not. You might even get upset, which I'm sure you will. You're going to throw a fit. You're going to have uncontrollable anger. God, what happened? You're going to say, what happened? And then he's going to minister to you. And he's going to say, Rosanna, put down your sword. Put down your sword. Stop fighting everything you think is not right. Stop fighting it. Stop resisting it. Stop saying it isn't fair. It isn't right. It isn't supposed to happen. No, my friend, if it happens and you're in hot water and you're in a disaster for a long period of time, God knows you're there and he's going to work out everything to bless you. But you need to remain calm and quiet and know that, no, God knows exactly where I am and he has allowed certain things. And so I'm going to rest. I'm going to flow with it. I'm not going to fight it. I'm going to float with it. Because if you fight it, you're fighting God. God is in complete control. He is in control of your uncontrollable circumstances. He is in control of your uncontrollable circumstances. He pried your fingers off that situation. He didn't give you an option. He says, here is where I put you. Now remain there. Be quiet and be calm and know that I'm working all things out together for your good. So all those disasters are leading Jesus to his destiny. You have to get through the disasters to get to your destination. Don't get stuck in the disasters, though. What do I mean by that? Why didn't I get that position? You're going to ask him over and over again. Why did that person leave me? Why did they remove me? Why didn't I get that promotion? We need to stop. We need to stop and we need to recognize, God, was this you? You can ask him, God, was this you? Don't fight it. Flow with it. Don't fight it. Flow with it. Because then you can stay in health, you can stay in peace, and you know that your Father is in charge of your life. He says your times are in his hands. Your times are in his hands. Yes, it's bad. Yes, it's painful. But God wouldn't allow it if it wasn't going to lead to your destination. I love that statement. God wouldn't allow something if it's not going to lead to your destination. He just wouldn't allow something that would destroy you. He was not going to allow something that's going to get you off track. He's not going to allow that because his plans will not be thwarted by anybody. Every wrong is not the enemy. Sometimes it's God working out his plan, and you'll be able to know that in the by and by. Because you'll examine this and you'll say, but wait a minute, I have prayed and prayed and prayed and it still went south. I have prayed and prayed and prayed and it still went bad. That's God. That's God. I prayed and prayed and prayed and they still removed me. That's your Father. I prayed and prayed and prayed and it still fell through. That's your Father redirecting your path. That is God making a decision that we're going to go in this direction and not this direction. If you handle the wrong, how you handle the wrong, there you go. How you handle the wrong will determine if God can set things right. So we must handle the situation, the disaster correctly. If you see every wrong as the enemy, then you're going to start to get to revenge. You may, not always. You may say, hey, I'm going to get some revenge here. I'm going to retaliate here. Your anger is going to overflow. You're going to start slandering people because you still don't get it. And when you don't get it, you can remain stuck. But when you understand, he uses the wrong to move us into destiny, it calms our heart. When I realized that a meeting that I went to, I covered it with prayer, I covered it with an agreement, and I was the one. I was the one that was found in the wrong. And so I was removed. And I realized, God, that was you. That was so you. And now, because I was removed, I'm here at the Holy Spirit Broadcasting Network. If I was not removed from that situation, if I was still there, I would not be here. And so God says, your plans are small, but I'm going to enlarge your territory. So get your 10 pegs and enlarge those territories. See, so God knew what he was doing. At the time it hurt. Of course it hurt. I didn't understand it until I prayed about it, meditated on it, and realized that was you, God. So flow with life, and it will go a lot easier. Joseph in Genesis 37. God put a dream in Joseph's heart as a young man, right? As a young boy, that he would become a great leader. Joseph experienced so many disasters. You know the story. Disaster led to his destination. There you go. I was kind of tongue-tied there. His brothers became so jealous of him, they threw him into a pit. What a disaster. He was sold as a slave into Potiphar's house. Another disaster. Potiphar's wife accused him of attacking her, and then he was thrown into jail. Another disaster. I think it was the baker that forgot about Joseph's dreams. 2 years, not the baker, the cupbearer. Thank you so much. The cupbearer forgot about him after 2 years of saying, "Oh yeah, I'm gonna bring your name to the Pharaoh, and oh, possibly you're gonna get out." No. He forgot him 2 more years. Those that you help many times will forget about you. They will forget about you even though you've helped them. But at the proper time, look what happened. Look what happened. Joseph was remembered, and he got out of prison. He had to be in there 2 more years after that. That was another disaster. Well, one night the Pharaoh had a dream, a disturbing, a troubling dream. Disaster was about to turn into destination now. The cupbearer told Pharaoh that there was a young man in prison that he met. And he said, he interpreted my dream, and he was right on. Joseph was sent to come before the Pharaoh, the most powerful man, the most influential man in all the nations of Egypt. And Joseph interpreted his dream and was instantly promoted to the second most powerful man in all the land. The Pharaoh was so impressed by Joseph. He went from a prisoner to a prince. He went from a prisoner to the prime minister. In one day, in a moment, he interpreted that dream and everything changed. That's how God can move in our lives. If Joseph didn't experience the disaster after the disaster, he wouldn't have made it to the Pharaoh's palace. Do you see that? If those disasters would not have happened, he wouldn't have made it. Joseph's brothers, if they would not have been jealous, he wouldn't have made it there. If he wasn't sold, he wouldn't have made it to the prime minister. If he wasn't accused, it would not have worked for his good. If he never went to prison, he would have not made it to the palace. Let's see how Apostle Paul fared. And he's going to show us that he floated instead of fighting it. And we have to flow instead of fighting it. We have to obey God. And just as Apostle Paul was, he was obeying God at this point. He was walking out his destiny. He was building churches. He was discipling and fathering God's people. But he was arrested for his faith. He was arrested following God's instruction. Here he was in the will of God, and he still got arrested. He was in a boat, and the boat was on its way to Rome. Suddenly, there was a big storm. 14 days of this huge storm. They couldn't see the sun. They couldn't see the moon. They couldn't see the stars. This storm was of hurricane proportion. The angels of the Lord came and told Paul, reassured him, you're going to live, and everybody on the ship is going to live. Stay in the boat. So the crew started throwing everything overboard so the ship wouldn't sink. Finally, the captain turned down the sails. The captain himself, he said, let the ship float. Wherever the storm took them. So the captain kind of gave up. He said, put the sails down and let our ship just float wherever it floats. Can you see the hand of God here? That ship was floating in the storm. And it just so happened to float in the island of Malta. And there was no coincidence there. There is no coincidences in the believer's life. There is no flukes. There's no fate. There's no coincidences in the believer's life. The storm was raging. It overwhelmed them. The storm was not relenting. It wouldn't stop. So when your storm doesn't relent, when your storm doesn't stop, it's time to stop fighting and start floating. Flow it with it. Flow with it. Matthew 11:28 says, 11:28, come to me, all those who are weary and who are heavy laden, for I am going to give you rest. Enter into the rest of God. Did you know that rest is the highest form of warfare? That's why the scripture says, enter into the rest. The storm was taking them where God wanted to take them. So don't fight the purposes of God. The storm was God's plan. The storm was God's plan. Thank you for understanding. I've got a cough drop in my mouth because of my sore throat. Anyway, Matthew 2:13 through 23. Nothing and no one can upset the plans of God. The God's plans cannot be thwarted. Disaster was about to turn into a destination. The ship fell apart, yes. The crew swam to the island. The natives there, they were sick, but then they got healed. They seen a miraculous feat when Paul was attacked by the viper, and Paul didn't die. So they saw a miracle, and many of them were saved. God uses the wrongs in our life to move us into the purposes that God has for us. So if you see every situation that, oh, that's the enemy, oh, that's the enemy, you're going to be fighting. You're going to be fighting. You're going to be resisting. Instead of fighting, start floating. Instead of fighting, start floating. You're in the perfect will of God. You're in the perfect will of God. If your storm keeps going and going and going, and you see no end to it, then rest. Rest. Enjoy your life and trust God to get you from devastation to your destiny. God will never allow things that won't work for your good. He won't allow that. It's got to work for your good because God is your Father. He says, I'm responsible to get you to the other side. And so Romans 8:28, which I love, and I'm sure you love too, all things work together for good to those that love God. The horrific things work together for good to those that love God. The disastrous things work together for good to those that love God. The traumatic things work together for those that love God. The horrific things work together for good for those that love God. The devastating things work together for good to those that love God. See, we can't lose for winning. I mean, we are going to win. God says you have already overcome them. So rest, stop fighting and start floating because nothing's going to change it. God's got the timing. There's a timing for everything under heaven. God's got a purpose for the trouble. He's got a purpose for the disaster because he's going to get you to a destination. So rest in him. And if you have not made Jesus the Lord of your life, invite him to come into your life right now. Just say, Father, forgive me of my sins. I believe that you died and you rose again on the third day, that God raised Jesus, that Jesus is the way, he's the truth, he's the life. I believe that, Lord. Come into my heart. And if you prayed that simple little prayer, God saved you. You are now a child of God. Go and find a church that teaches you the benefits because you have benefits and God will show you the way. He's going to lead you out of disaster into your destiny. He's going to lead you out of disaster into your destination. So thank you so much for being with us here at the Holy Spirit Broadcasting Network. If you like what's going on here, please do support us. Support us. Go to our page. It says donate. You are welcome to donate if you like what is going on here, preaching the word of life.